Alright, you read the title. I want to go over what I mean when I say Pokemon that ruined our childhoods, because there are going to be some returning faces here from the Strongest Aces video. This video is not about the Strongest Aces. The Strongest Aces are about where they stack up not just against each other, but also what we had by the time we got to them, and how well they handled most team compositions, as well as their movesets over the generations. This isn't about the strongest, but the most annoying and infuriating. Stuff that we ran into as a kid. It was hard not just because it was strong, albeit that plays a big part into it, but also because it actually just got under our skin with how badly we were getting trounced. I'll try my best to elaborate more into the video, but here's a good example that's also a spoiler. Whitney's Miltank in the grand scheme of things isn't that strong, and plenty of answers were given to us that, odds are, we didn't take. However, we found ourselves getting annoyed with it anyway, because even with the answers, she still had ways to annoy us with Attract, Stomp, Rollout, and Milk Drink. Now, let's begin. This explanation took a little bit longer than anticipated. Back in Generation 1, Psychic was the strongest type in the game by far. The Pokemon that were supposed to answer it, like Beedrill and Gengar, didn't do that at all, as Beedrill was too slow and weak to do anything with Twin Needle, and Psychic types were not only immune to Ghost in Gen 1, but also both of these supposed answers were poison, which is weak to Psychic. Safe to say that when stepping up to her level 50 Alakazam in Pokemon Yellow, or level 43 if she was in the somehow more merciful game of Red and Blue, it was going to be a rather irritating fight. Her Alakazam had recovered to restore its HP, Reflect to give it some defensive backbone, Psywave to exist without being Psychic, and Psychic, which is one of the best moves in Gen 1. It's fast, it's strong, it doesn't need coverage when it hits everything on your team for at least neutral, and there was nothing you could do to switch into it. I found this fight incredibly irritating as a kid, and even now when I occasionally go through Yellow again, I still find myself dreading her fight because I know that no matter what I'm going to bring, I'm gonna struggle. Unless you're using the Roto power-ups, which I've never met a single person who does that by the way, you're going to have a hard time when you make your way to an entire nother dimension just to stop a light-absorbing alien who has possessed your friend's pet Cloud from eating all the light in the universe. This becomes considerably harder when you go up to the top of that tower and you see the jerk that corrupted and possessed your little buddy transforming into what may as well be the Pokemon equivalent of Golden Frieza. But not only does it go through a transformation which buffs its stats, but it also then gets stat buffs on top of that from its sheer aura. Base 129 speed, base 167 attack and special attack, and it's also even stronger? No thanks. It also comes equipped with pretty strong moves like Dragon Pulse, Photon Geyser, Power Gem, and Smart Strike just to hit a pretty decent number of Pokemon for massive damage. There is no way to enter this battle without losing a Pokemon, especially if you're Nuzlocking. How I beat it in my original playthrough was cheese. Pure cheese. Zoroark in the front disguising itself as Beware tricked the AI into spamming Photon Geyser. Mimikyu of Toxic also works, but you have to race against the clock and pray you can stall it out before it wipes out your entire party. I wanted to put Greevil Shadow Lugia on this list, but given that we all knew Shadow Lugia was going to be in the game from both the cover and the intro to the game. So when we got to the Master Ball, we reasonably saved it for Shadow Lugia. Yeah, this fight was probably hard if you didn't save it, but most of us did. The actual Pokemon that were problems to deal with were everything else. While Greevil's Rhydon, Tauros, and Exeggutor at least had feasible catch rates, trying to get Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno off of him was nightmarish. Not only do they have bad catch rates due to them being legendaries, but every Ultra Ball they busted out of may as well have meant a fainted Pokemon, because Shadow Fire, Shadow Bolt, and Shadow Chill were respectively threatening members of your team due to their super effective damage. Because Shadow moves are always super effective on non-Shadow Pokemon. This fight wouldn't be hard if you weren't under an obligation to catch the birds, and fighting them was the correct path. However, we were going to need to pry those annoying avians off him one way or another, and this was the only way we got, which meant we were going to be resetting after getting wiped a decent bit. Part of what made this Pokemon hard when we first fought it was admittedly the surprise factor. When we defeated N and assumed it was over before Ghetsis lunged at us with intent to defeat us, despite the cool giant legendary on our team, we were never in a million years going to be prepared for what was to come, as his strongest Pokemon was something we had never seen up to that point. I've already covered Ghetsis' moveset before in the Strongest Aces video, so I won't get into it again. What matters is that it was strong, it was fast, and that due to the surprise factor it presented, given that we didn't know what types it had access to or what its stats were, there was a solid chance it wound up wiping our teams. Now, in the hypothetical round 2, now that we are more prepared for it, we probably beat it. But what mattered was in that moment. Our day was ruined, and we were just happy when it was over and we beat the maniacal menace to society. Let me tell you, to get to this point, me and my writer may have gotten into the world's greatest internet debate. I mean, it was Ace Attorney in the office that day, with the editor as the judge, me as Phoenix, my writer as Edgeworth, and Flannery's Torkoal being the person I am trying to prove innocent, while Lance's Dragonite was the villain of the case trying to prove us guilty. Needless to say, despite my writer's excellent argument of 3 Dragonite with big attack, and they're hard to beat, I managed to trounce his argument with the fact that Ice Punch is an easy grab in the Goldenrod department store, and in the remix, we even get Blizzard. What was my argument in order to destroy my writer's Dragonite agenda to make sure this video's information was correct? Flannery's Torkoal, for where it is in the game, is incredibly threatening, and with limited real answers. We're fighting it probably around level 29, so even if we got our hands on the fossils or Trapinch, they wouldn't have the stats or bulk to handle it. Marshtomp is solid, but it doesn't exactly have any real hard-hitting moves at this point in the game. And if you picked Combusken or Grovyle, you weren't gonna have much fun there either. It has excellent bulk for this point in the game, making it incredibly hard to deal proper damage to. To make matters even worse, assuming you're playing Emerald, not only does it have 3 Sunny Day Setters before it to power it up, but it also has White Herb, so it can at the very least break through one of your resists with Sun Boosted Overheat before going down. This Torkoal is a menace to society on all fronts, and must be punished for its crimes. Look, when climbing Mount Silver for the first time, you really didn't know what to expect. Not to mention, assuming that you were some young lad in 2001 playing through Gold and Silver at the time, the strongest thing you legitimately faced up to that point was Blue, whose team was at the level 54s to 58s, which were somehow lower than his team in Red, Blue, and Yellow. You'd think he'd be stronger after 2 years. Maybe his real team is hiding and it's secretly level 70s. No matter. What does matter is where this is going. And that's to stand off with a character that caused us all who played through Kanto to jump out of our seats and point at the screen because that's the protagonist of the game. What we weren't expecting is when he busted out that level 84 rat that was towering over our team of at most level 60s. What was joy and shock turned into an absolute horror, as this stupid rat would show up and start slamming into us with light ball boosted attacks. Look, we all know this was one of those fights that's only hard due to the level difference, and I get that. However, that didn't not make this fight one of the most annoying to get through, especially when other level 70 to 80 Pokemon were waiting for us as soon as we beat Pikachu. Every day I wonder to myself what life would be like in a world where fairies existed earlier and how gameplay mechanics of back then would have changed. Oh, who am I kidding? I think about them because they're the other answer other than your own dragon to the notorious final gym battles of not just Johto, but also Hoenn if you played Emerald. Here we are once again to 2 friends who need no introduction if you saw The Strongest Aces. It's Juan and Claire and their dynamic pair of Kendras who led me to nothing but despair. We know what makes Juan annoying, but as a refresher, Double Team and Rest make for a rather irritating combination that makes it very hard to kill a Kendra with only one weakness. And by this point in the game, not only are your dragons not that strong, but they all die to Ice Beam. Claire has Smokescreen, which is just reverse Double Team, Dragon Pulse, and Hydro Pump, and then random Hyper Beams for no reason. But what makes her hard is that not only are you probably underleveled when you get to her, but she's hard because not a single Pokemon you can catch will properly answer her 1v1, assuming that you're fighting at around equal level. The only Pokemon you can catch that is super effective against it is Dragonair. And that Dragonair is not winning the 1v1 without a lucky crit. It's a lack of answers that can make the most annoying and frustrating bosses. You know, when Cheren gave us Chesto Berries right before we went into Lenora's gym, we as dumb, stupid kids didn't heed the warning. We didn't realize that those Chesto Berries were meant to help us. How would we have ever known as we confidently entered the normal type gym with either Pignite, Sock, Throw, or Timber in the party with us, expecting to come out on top? We fought our way through the questions, through the trainers, and through Lenora's Herdier too. And then, it happened. This level 20 demon had showed up in front of us, used what may as well have been the equivalent of Giga Impact, knocked out one of our most important Pokemon, and left us stunned for a moment. However, surely we had a plan. Send in our best, strongest Pokemon and win, right? Wrong. As Paul Rudd once said in Anchorman, work 60% of the time, every time. And Hypnosis landed. The Chesto Berry is looking really good right now, but if we use it, we eat another Retaliate. Odds are, it 2 to 3 hit KOs everything on our team, and the only means of survival is to stall out with potions. But doing that risks a turn of us getting hit with Leer to lower our defenses, making it all pointless. And even if you thought about bringing a Ghost, even though we don't have a way to get one, she has Crunch anyways. Even if we win the battle with potions and stalling, we never earned that badge. She's giving it to us to be nice. She has the moral victory. And to be quite frank, we take those. This is not going to be a long section, if only because I think we all know where this is going. It doesn't matter that in the remix, Heracross got Brick Break. It doesn't matter that we have access to Onix and Geodude before this gym. Whitney can and will find a way to be harder than she has any right to be with Attract. Lest we go hunting for female Pokemon just to beat it. And, the Machop you happen to trade from the guy in the department store happens to also have a female Machop, so woohoo. It will stomp flinch us at every opportunity. It can heal away all the damage we throw at it with Milk Drink, and it can sweep our team with Rollout. So, tell you what, instead of talking about what it can do, I'm gonna talk about what it can't do. Load up Heart Gold and Soul Silver, go to the game corner, get Abra from Voltorb Flip, train it to Kadabra, trade with the buddy and trade back, and then go by and teach Alakazam Focus Blast. You can thank me later. For the honorable mention, we have Lance's Dragonite. We all know what they do and why they're so tough to deal with. Luckily, Ice Punch and Rock moves are here to save the day. So, you're playing Diamond and Pearl for the first time as a kid, and you know where this is going, and like, come on now. There's a reason that the more casual side of the Pokemon fanbase has like 2 jokes. A house in Undella Town, and a copy pasta so overdone that you couldn't pay me to do it. To say that its existence is unfortunate doesn't begin to describe my series. I am beyond convinced at this point. You beat Lucian. He warns you that the champion is much stronger than the Elite Four. You heal up, save your game, and progress forward. And then an ominous piano that would etch its way into your head as a woman who had been helping you the entire game welcomes you into the champion's room, Cynthia. And as it turns out, she got hands. As a Garchomp that can and will be higher leveled than your entire team, at 66 compared to you, who probably just hit 60s to get there and beat the level 63 Bronzong that was gatekeeping you, proceeds to wreak unimaginable havoc. Yeah, that weird ghost you fought that you probably hadn't seen was tough, and Roserade, Gastrodon, Milotic, and Lucario were all worthy opponents in their own right. But you realize, very quick, that they were meant to soften up your team so that way you could get cleaned by Garchomp. And it worked. Palkia can't save you. It dies to Dragon Rush. Dialga can't save you. It dies to Earthquake. She really could have just stopped Cyrus herself, but she stepped back and let you do it, because she knew it would be too easy for her Garchomp to overkill the Lords of Space and Time themselves. There is no walling Garchomp. There is just praying that it misses Dragon Rush and that maybe you can fight your way through it. Also, it's holding a Citrus Berry, just to make sure it has more turns to claw at you. That's the only way of escape, unless you had Weavile. Weavile was a pretty good escape. And that's it. Every Pokemon I could think of that ruined our childhoods. Sorry if number 1 was a little predictable. Cynthia's Garchomp felt like the only viable option for number 1, given that she was the reason I made this video to begin with. Are there any bosses or Pokemon you found more infuriating than these? And by chance, were they the totem Pokemon in Gen 7? As they were pretty frustrating. But you let me know in the comment section below. If you'll excuse me though, I need to go try to figure out how to save Garchomp from falling to UU in Gen 9 singles. Or maybe we can start petitioning for Garchomp to get Scale Shot back so it can be a sweeper again. It still annoys me that Enamorus is faster than it. That and the lack of Scale Shot feels like spite more than anything else.